You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
What's up, my brother?
What's up, dude? Welcome to Out of the Blank podcast, brother man.
Awesome, man. I'm so glad I can be on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm very appreciative of you even accepting it. First of all, we just messaged on Facebook and got this set up. And actually, your podcast is kind of similar to mine is. Now you're the host of Intellect.
Yeah, it's we like to call ourselves Intellect, the medical marijuana / comedy podcast, where we basically make fools of ourselves on the internet for your enjoyment. God, I can't even remember the intro anymore.
Isn't that the beautiful part of the internet though? Is kind of making
bring up current event issues and see what a stoner take on it would be, and just kind of put whatever point of view we think might be sort of comedic.
Well, Colin, what do you do professionally? Like, what do you do to get you through the day? Kind of get you money.
Oh, I'm a janitor by trade. I'm technically the supervisor, but really I just clean more poop than anyone else does,
Where do you do your janitory stuff at?
Well, we do all sorts of businesses around town, medical offices, the hospital, lawyers' offices, different cubicles, that sort of thing. We do the movie theaters, that sort of thing. So I tend to find quite a bit of vomit and poop and pee and all sorts of different type of bodily fluids that you wouldn't want your mouth coming close to unless you're in some sort of German video there. So.
Oh, dude, that sounds amazing. I mean, all the wonderful human excrement. First you have to deal with all the bullshit people say every single day. Then you got to worry about cleaning up after their mess too.
Oh, absolutely. But I tend to, since I'm more of a nighttime janitor, I tend to just stick to myself and don't have to deal with anyone's bullshit. And if I do pull up to a job and I happen to find a customer there, then yeah, I'll be fucking as rude to them as I can be because, hey, guess what? You're at my place of work now.
So what made you decide to start doing this podcast? And for people that are listening that are out there, how would you describe your podcast besides just stoner bullshit? Is it kind of like, because when you say stoner stuff, kind of like, just cracking jokes about life and doing all these random types of things, I actually look at it a little bit deeper because you do, honestly, anybody that's ever smoked pot before can understand that you're basically get a whole nother view on the world. Like someone took the sunglasses off your eyes.
Yeah, I can see it from multiple perspectives, especially playing devil's advocate from the other side. But I would generally describe our podcast as just a group of guys, a group of friends, good friends who get together and smoke. And we happen to be medical marijuana users, so that tends to be more of the lean of the episode. But I basically just started the podcast because, like most people growing up, I didn't really have an outlet for my social anxiety, so to speak. I was always, not that kid with that many friends, and always feel like I had something to say and to talk to people about things, but I never could really catch anyone's attention for so long. So I just kind of decided that one day that I'm just going to do this, and if people like it, then they can take it or leave it. But if people like it, then that's awesome. And then it kind of blew up. It started as a YouTube channel, and then it went into a podcast, and now we have 3 different podcasts, 2 of which are out, and 1 of which we're still currently working on. But it's just an outlet for for me being a social outcast as far as not having friends and not knowing what to say to people in public. But you can say anything you want on a microphone when you're just looking at your buddies.
Yeah. It's funny is you say you have social anxiety and you a social outcast. Now I can actually relate to that because I've been through like my high school years. I went completely introvert and I just didn't talk to anybody anymore. I ended up just sticking to myself and just kind of doing my own thing and picking up my own habit. How did you find marijuana to be such a cure for this? Because I mean, like from you're from California for people that are listening, so the whole idea is I'm from East Coast. It's not very, very legal here. It's still illegal. I mean, it's not as bad as it was like back in the day, but it's not as open as I would say as a place like California or Colorado. So when you use
I would assume that it's also socially generally frowned upon as well.
Yeah, it's it's like basically, I mean, even though
it's not something that people are like, oh, you're cool.
Well, it's I truly don't understand. It's like because I'm from my area, it's all local bars and all these types of things. I'm like, how is that legal? How is drinking legal in something like a plant like this? Now, I have smoked pot before. I'm not I mean, I don't do it anymore just because it was never for me. I kind of like would get way too high, and then dark shit would start happening. Next thing you know, you're on couch lock, and you're like, wait a minute,
Oh,
how do I
totally.
breathe? But
Yeah,
it's
and that's
it comes to the whole
sorry.
factor, like I said, I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate too when it comes to the whole marijuana side. I understand where you can put it in a category of, yes, it is a harmful substance, but would not classify it as the same thing as it being heroin. First of all, they have it in the same category as heroin, which I do not understand, because I have lost friends to that. I have lost a whole group of variety of things to that, and the only thing I've ever experienced that was really super bad, where to the point where I was like, I'm just gonna take a nap on marijuana, was that I enjoyed cartoons a hell of a lot more than I thought I would.
I'm sorry, I lost that on you there. But if I'm going with what your tangent was there, what I can say about that personally is I also know a lot of friends that have been caught up in heroin and meth and have been deal with all sorts of different personal issues that have come from harder drugs. But having had my medical marijuana card since I was 16, to get a little bit personal, I have a schizophrenia, so I got mine a lot earlier than most people did. So I understand the stigma around it on both sides, but I think I can play more to the conservative side, saying that I do think it is a gateway drug, and I do think it is bad for you. I'm currently smoking right now. I've been smoking all day, but I can handle it. It's my medicine. That's how I use it. But a lot of people, like other things, you can misuse anything. Anything's a foreign substance that you put in your body, milk, water, whatever. So you can overdo anything. So I think within the right context and the right confines, I think anything could be harmful. But marijuana in and of itself isn't. But I do think on the other end of the spectrum that it can be a leading to other things.
You think it could be a gateway drug?
I do. I personally do. Well, because I've been smoking for so long, right? I've been smoking for 10 years now. I'm 26. So, it's easy to get to a certain point where you've smoked so much and it just doesn't do it for you anymore, which is why I started drinking. And now I'm drinking into excess, and then it turned into, for a while there, it was, cocaine and all those sorts of things that I was not too generally proud to speak on. But it does lead to other things, and that just might be my personal mental disorders or whatever that I'm dealing with, and my personal experiences in life that I'm going through right now. But I think that it honestly depends on the person. I think it's 50-50,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry, if you have an addicted personality, you're more than likely going to get addicted to it, and then try and find other things.
Oh yeah. Well, see, I actually went to school for psychology. Got my associate's degree,
Yeah.
in dealing with chemical dependency and all these types of things. So I know how the mind of an addict works. I know how the mind of someone who deals with a serious psychological disorder works. But also,
Of course.
when you look at something like marijuana, I would prefer giving that to my son or child who's dealing with a type of, maybe a disorder or social anxiety like you have. I do have a type of social anxiety, but I've learned to kind of overcome it. But with people that need a drug to kind of sustain themselves through everyday life, that is a major benefit compared to giving a prescripted drug that has a hell of a lot more side effects that a doctor and a lab coat is legally allowed to give you, which is basically legal meth.
Yeah, but on the other end of the spectrum, coming from my personal, more practice side, I don't know, and we don't have to get into what your personal experience with mental disorders is, but I can say that that's why people get addicted to heroin, is because they did pills for so long, and then it stopped working for them, so they went to something else to heal their pain or their mental disorder or, whatever anguish they have, which is fine. I get that. But it's the same with marijuana. At some point, you kind of develop a tolerance and you lose the feeling that it once gave you that made you feel like it was correcting whatever you're trying to correct.
Yeah, like much like you were saying, your body builds up a tolerance to it. That's like that with anything. But if you stop for a little while and then
Yeah.
come right back to it, you get these major, I guess, you get the reflux. I mean, you just got to rebuild it back up, basically. So once you build up this tolerance, just stop for a little while, take a little break, which sometimes can be too hard for some people. But
Yeah.
if you take that little break and then you come back to it, you find that it's not gonna your tolerance has gone away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand what you mean, but I really think, like I said before, I think it's a person-to-person issue. Some people develop tolerances quicker, and especially in my case, I was smoking for 10 years heavily every day. And then it didn't work, and I had a lot of personal issues that went down in my life, so I started drinking, and now I'm heavily drinking, and I'll be honest enough to tell you that I go to AA every day, and I understand the mind of an addict and all that, but I can tell you, and I'm not comparing one or the other. Absolutely, there's no comparison. There's no comparison from heroin to marijuana. There's absolutely none. But I do think that there's a larger conversation to be had about its effects on young people.
And what are those?
Well, let's say a loss of cognitive relay towards other people. Just having general troubles with life. Your brain doesn't develop. Like when I started smoking, I smoked out of necessity, and that's why I continue to smoke. But it was absolutely, and I can tell you from a personal experience, detrimental to my youth and to my brain developing as a young child, and that's why I have a lot of personal issues that I still continue to have that honestly grow worse.
Do you feel like it was just a little bit like your brain obviously was premature? Like you should have waited till your brain was at actual full development, which is like at the age of like 25 or something like that?
Yeah, I would say, especially for men, because schizophrenia in men likes to develop in their mid to late 20s. I think that we should just change the whole thing. I mean, I know it's different for medical users. You need it when you're younger, that's fine. CBD is fine. But I think as far as THC goes and smoking marijuana goes, we need to limit how much younger people are getting, because I, from personal experience, can tell you that it has absolutely been a detriment to my youth.
I definitely think it shouldn't be as easy as like, because I mean, even where I'm from, you see marijuana. I mean, it's hitting ages at a little bit now. It's hitting a little bit before middle school, which is very, very serious. Parents need to definitely talk to their kids about. But at the same time, there are some kids out there that feel like the world is too hard. The world is too difficult. Hell, I'm one of those people that feel that way too. But I also think where marijuana can be a benefit to that when it comes to helping a person focus and realize maybe inner goals. Obviously, like you were saying, it works different for everyone, okay?
Yeah.
What I pulled out at high school was I was bullied very badly. I excluded myself from everyone. I ended up taking up the gym very seriously and have been going every single day since. But I've developed a body kind of disorder from that to the point where I restrict myself on food. And I'm working slowly to help kind of, overcome that. So I understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from of having, I guess, a type of I guess some type of illness when it comes to your mental stability and everything. And I'm really just bringing that up because I want you to feel comfortable talking to someone that actually suffers from something mentally too, because it feels like a lot of people are very unaware of people that suffer from disorders or types of anxieties, and they don't truly understand it unless they go through one themselves.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people out there, which is one of my biggest pet peeves, especially people on the internet that like to claim anxiety or like to say I'm anxious for something or this and that. And having had schizoaffective disorder most of my life, I can tell you that that's personally offensive towards me. But I try not to be a cuck liberal when it comes to those sort of things. But I'm not using that in a political term. I'm just saying it more as an identifier for somebody who's not maybe not on the fence, or maybe more on the fence rather.
Yeah, like, cause I mean, what I don't really like is that like a lot what happened to do like, well, history is obviously changing now, but with a lot of like kind of drugs like marijuana and stuff that has major benefit. I mean, I've podcasted with people that use medical marijuana to help with Parkinson's, where
Mm-hmm.
you see a slower increase of their symptoms and everything like that. It seems to kind of fade away and kind of at least be clouded up a little bit. And it doesn't. Everyone's like, it's not the cure to cancer. It isn't the cure to cancer, but it slows down the cells or stops the cells from multiplying, which is a
Yes, absolutely.
benefit. But like I said, I'm not against it at all. I'm not for it at all either. I think that it depends on the person, like you're saying. It's a case to case scenario. I definitely think when it comes to a 13-year-old girl who experienced epileptic seizures, decides instead of taking a pill that's $80 for a bottle of 20, can take a hit from some medical marijuana and then experience no seizures, and her body is doing better, her mind's doing better, and it's giving that child a road that she can finally drive down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with you. The only thing I would say is that I don't believe that a child, especially a child of the age of 13, should take a hit. But I think that, CBD oils and marijuana tinctures, things like that are, the best idea. Absolutely. I think marijuana is the better route.
For sure. So, well, I've kind of got redirected myself here now, thinking towards of just the podcast with you. What I picked up from your podcast was like, oh, this guy's a pro advocate marijuana user, and it seems like you've kind of faded out of that after your years of using marijuana.
Well, you have to understand, especially for people in my audience listening to the show now that have never heard me talk in a sense like this, is that I'm always playing some sort of caricature on my show.
Okay.
You're never. I think we rarely ever speak in a candid manner. It's always jokes about dicks and suckfest this and hashtag suckfest, all that. But when it comes down to it, is I'm sorry, I forget your initial question because I'm fucking ripped right now. Hashtag fucking let's go, baby. But ultimately, I would say that. Oh my God, I'm folding, dude. I'm folding. Hold on.
It's all good. Look, I'm trying to get down to the basis of who you are and what you are as a person. To me, my podcast, it's a conversation between me and you. If you want to go fucking explore down the deep rabbit hole of aliens, we can do that. But I want to know what your goal is. Is your podcast more of like, you feel like you're displaying so you said you're displaying a character. That's not really who you are. Well, tell me about who you are.
Absolutely not.
I want to know who you are. I want to know everything about Colin. I want to know what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? You can't tell me scrubbing toilets and doing all this shit, which I do for a living now, and that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. What do you want to do deep down? What problems do you feel like you have to focus on, you have to go to? What inspires you to get your ass really out of bed besides just using medical marijuana? What do you feel like you want to achieve in your life? Because we all have a story, dude. You have something about you.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. You have something about you that's fucking interesting, okay? Whether you realize it or not, your life is fucking awesome, okay? Look, listen to me when I say this. I've just met you. I can tell a good-hearted person when I talk to them. And I'm telling you right now, I believe 100% you might have made some mistakes in your life, but I guarantee you, you have a life still left to live.
All right, let me just start by saying, I appreciate that. Obviously, you're a very nice and gentle person, and that's evident through your previous statement there. But
depends on what day you catch me on.
Let me finish my previous thought because I don't really go, especially with my fans, and there's going to be people listening to this that are fans of my show, and I don't like to go behind the curtain more than I have to. So let me put this generic statement out here for you. I play a caricature on my show of a medical marijuana stoner that knows very little. That's why we go into silly jokes about how maybe the moon isn't real, the earth is flat, and we'll talk about that for hours, maybe multiple episodes at a time. I am a person, am not that guy, and I like to make that known to everyone now listening, but at the end of the day, I'm out there trying to entertain people, man. That's all I want to do. And I want to tell you who I am and what my life story is. But to be totally perfectly candid with you, it's too sad. You don't want to hear it.
I do want to hear it though. I do. Trust me. I have podcasts with people that have literally been like, I've met people in my life, great people, and people that won't do my podcast because they don't want their information getting out there. But I'm just letting you know that you have a story, you have a tale, you've lived a life and an experience that's going to affect someone out there listening that's going to hear that and pull something from it. And I'm deciding, like, if you want to be open about as much as you want, be as open as you want. Don't worry about how sad it gets, dude. I want to talk to the real Colin. I'm taking off everything right now about your podcast that I've been looking up for like the past hour and a half. So it's like, I want to know you, man. If this is not the person you want to display, then tell me about it, man, because I'm more than happy that, because the sad thing is, a lot about what I've realized about the world is we walk around with masks around our face, displaying a character and hiding somebody who's truly either went through something or feels like they're just a bother to the world. Okay. That's my big inspiration is a lot with comedians because I can tell when someone is damaged. I can tell when someone has went through a lot and they use comedy or humor to make somebody else laugh, much like yourself does with this podcast, because he believes that making laughter and doing all these other things for people and bringing enjoyment to others is a way of fulfilling it for himself, which he cannot do, which I understand 100%. I have been known to be the guy to crack jokes and do all this stuff, even make fun of myself, just so others can get a little bit of enjoyment out of the day. When anybody explains anything about me, it's not am I a good person or a bad person. It's Robbie. You have to talk to Robbie. I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I want you to know me as. I want you to explain that to everyone that has never met me, what I am. Oh, that's just Robbie. You just got to talk to him. Because I'll say something so fucking stupid, you'll be like, what the hell's wrong with you? And then later that day, you'll think about it and you'll just laugh. And it'll bring a little bit of joy. And I'm like, I'm glad I could do that for you. Because much like how you do with your podcast, there's people that watch it, they're sitting there laughing their ass off at just all the random kind of silly jokes you crack and stuff, but they're pulling something out of it and it's getting them out of what their, I guess, crippling of a day probably was. Because sadly, I don't have a good day every fucking day. It's pretty bad most of the time. But when I watch, YouTube videos, a cat playing piano, whatever the hell, that little bit of enjoyment gets my mind off of it. So
well, I appreciate how open and honest you are.
Yeah, well, I want you to be as open as honest as you want to feel, dude. If you want to go into how your life was and how many things you've pulled out of it, go into that because that formed you into the person that I'm talking to right now, and I want to know.
Yeah, but I mean, generally speaking, especially the people, like I keep going back to the people that are going to be listening to this, because most people don't want to see the man behind the curtain. When it comes to you want to eat that fucking food from Taco Bell, but you don't want to see where it came from. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know. Trust me, I've seen some stuff about Taco Bell's horse meat scandals, and let me tell you, that stuff's still delicious. But we eat it anyway.
Oh dog, I'll smash some Taco Bell right now. Quesarito, bro. Let's go. But it's not really in my. Well, see, now I'm fucking, you're forcing me over a bridge here, but it's not really in my character to fucking talk about my life, really, because that's not what people want to hear. That's why we don't talk about politics on the podcast, and we try not to. I know our most recent one was about that, but, you can only do, 40, 50 episodes without fucking saying something, and then you gotta say it, but, because I'm not trying to be a detriment to you or me here, because there's a lot of things that I could go into, especially personal, and then I could learn a lot of lessons, and you could learn a lot of lessons, and your listener could learn a lot of lessons from. But I don't think that, generally speaking, it's a story that I need to tell right now.
I get it, and if you don't want to go there, that's 100% fine with you. I want you to know that whether you choose to display yourself in a way that your audience is going to enjoy rather than what you want to get across, that's fine. But I'm letting you know that whether your audience gets something or not, they listen to you for a reason. Whether you're cracking jokes or whether you're doing whatever you want that you feel like entertains them, they're not just there for that. It's just like that quote you see sometimes on the internet that says if you like me in my high times, then you got to love me in my low times. That's the same thing. We all have low times. Those don't go away. You're not the perfect person. Kim Kardashian doesn't have a perfect life. I guarantee you she's probably miserable half the time reading all the tweets and shit about her. It's but she ignores them. It's just because she loves displaying this image that millions love, and yeah, there's millions that hate it too, but at the same time, you shouldn't ever feel like you have to display a certain image because you feel like that's what people look up to. That's not true. So many heroes, for example, take Louis, okay? Louis C.K. got in trouble with that giant scandal about masturbating in front of women or whatever. He was hiding something.
Come on, he asked them though.
That's true. He had permission.
Ask them. Come on.
Okay,
Sorry, continue.
let me use another example then. Bill Cosby. He did not ask.
There you go.
He was slipping in the pudding pop wherever he could put the pudding pop. Now,
That's right, baby.
when you're hearing that, and you hear this guy who is seen as a comedy grandfather, where literally when this came out, so many people stood up to defend him. Do you not think that someone's gonna not be like? Do you think someone's gonna listen to you telling your story and be like, "Oh, I don't want to listen to him anymore because I know what he really goes through"? No, it's gonna fucking relate you to people. It's gonna make you more like human to everyone. Like, oh shit, he is this comedy stoner that has this podcast where he plays this character, but that's awesome because I know the real him too, and I realize he's just like me. He's not just some guy that smokes pot and is happy with his life all 100% of the time, because that's not true, and that's just a factor of society. We're just that's how it is. Society has turned us into these people that just don't want to care about each other anymore, and it pisses me off a little bit because I'm tired of walking into the store and not seeing anybody talk to anybody anymore. Everybody's looking at the floor, too afraid to say something. I'm like, just say hi. You don't know. Like I've went through major psychology classes dealing with depression and dealing with all these things, and I've watched these videos of these people that have gone through it, and I have not experienced it myself. But you ever heard of Kyle Hines?
It sounds familiar, but
he's the guy that jumped off.
A comedian?
No, he's the guy that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and lived, or the Empire State Building and lived.
Oh yeah, I saw that documentary.
Okay, he was saying that if someone would have just said hi to him while he was crying on the bus, then he wouldn't have gotten off the bus and then taken that jump. But no one said a fucking word to him because we're all too afraid to offend somebody or just even mention like, "Hey, how you doing?" We're all too obsessed with ourselves too. Sometimes you got to take that time to figure out what's up with that person. You're going to love that person. The first 5 minutes, you're going to figure out, is this person someone I want to talk to? Okay, I want to talk to you. So let's get to the experience, man. If you don't want to display it to your fans out there, and you think your fans are going to hate you for that, that's not true.
What you got?
Tell me what
you got? I'll be honest with you about anything. We got what, half an hour? I got you.
What do you want to do?
I'll go with it.
What do you want out of this life? What has gotten you with the decisions and the roads you've walked to get you to what you feel like you want to accomplish in this world?
Okay. Well, I didn't grow up like most kids, right? I didn't want to be like an astronaut or a fireman or police guy or fucking anything like that. And this is going to lead into some shit, but I always wanted to be a dad. And that's always what I thought my life was about, was to be a dad. It was to be a father. And this may be the most egotistical reason to have a child, but to impart my knowledge onto somebody, right? Because I feel like I've been through so much in my life, and I had so much to give. So that's what I've always thought that was my ultimate goal in life.
That's an amazing. First of all, that's not anything to look down upon, because being a dad is probably one of the hardest things too. It's also the same thing with being a mom. You know how hard it is to raise a child and do it properly, and at the same time, most of the people around here that have kids, at least in my area, they end up leaving and they end up not talking to that kid until the kid's over the age of 18, where that kid has lived a terrible life because he never knew who his dad was. My cousin, who I've met, he lost his dad. He never knew his dad. He never knew this side of the family. I just met him last year. He explains his life of adoption and being foster cared and everything like this. And it's amazing to think that anybody could look down on being a parent as a full-time job. That is a full-time job, depending on how far you're willing to go to help a child. And I think that's amazing that that's what you wanted to do, at least when you were a kid, having those thoughts too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was a lot unlike other kids, you know. I just I went through a lot when I was younger, you know, abuse and neglect and all sorts of things. I had a perfect childhood, but it wasn't my family. It was the people that I choose to associate myself with.
Yeah, sometimes,
and that can be your detriment, especially.
Yeah, sometimes that can be your detriment. 100%, I agree with you on that, dude. I remember to a point, the reason why I became so introvert was because I felt like my friends weren't the proper people I should be, I guess, hanging out with. Not because of just what they did, it was just because they were constantly making fun of each other all the time, to the point where like you were afraid to even hang out with them, like, because, oh, I don't feel like getting made fun of today. And I had some family stuff going on at the time too. My parents were in the middle of a separation and everything like that, so that was even harder. But then they would crack jokes on that. And yeah, they talk to me now and apologize for everything, and I'm 100% cool with them, and I'm there if they need me. But at the same time, it's like you have to realize, like, I've had those moments too, man. I've sat there and had no one to talk to, just the thoughts in my head creeping up, and it's like, is this really what life is? Is it like just an ever never ending work, school, sleep, work, school, sleep? Like, if this is what life is, it kind of sucks. And then I started realizing, like, when I started podcasting, I was like, we all have something interesting to say, man. If you feel like you're ever alone in the world, just realize there's someone else in your same position feeling the same exact thing. And I'm not trying to belittle your life or belittle any of your childhood experiences at all. I just want you to know that, like, if you ever get into the mindset like maybe it's just me, it's not just you. There's others that experience the same shit, dude. Every single day it feels like they're just getting through life. How many times have you, especially with older ages, have you talked to someone that's like, well, I got through life? Like, do you want to say you got through fucking life, or you fucking lived it? You know?
Yeah, no, I get that, and life is fucking tough for everyone. Everyone has their story, and a lot of people's are worse than others. But I don't think at the end of the day it's about comparisons. It's about learning from something from the other person. And me, my personal feelings about it is, having gone to AA for so long at this point, and still currently drinking. I can tell you from my personal standpoint, and it's maybe pessimistic, but I don't think that things get better if you try. I think things get better if you get lucky. And that's just me, and I don't want to put that out to the world or to anyone listening, but that's just my personal feelings on the subject, especially currently.
Do you feel like, yeah, well, see, I actually have a giant influence on alcohol in my life. My dad was actually an alcoholic, and it was a tough time going through that too. Just kind of realizing that, well, it's no fault of his. They say it, runs in the family, all those types of things. But my dad also worked doing DJ gigs at night, so even when he was trying to sober up, he had people giving him free shots while he was DJing, and he's like, "Look, I can't be doing." You know how hard it is to have that, being surrounded by the bar scene and dealing with that. And I've
Oh, yeah.
I've went into substance abuse like meetings. I've went into AA meetings. I've done all this stuff for my classes in chemical dependency to understand the mindset, and people that go through a type of addiction, like, the main thing they always say, make sure you don't feel alone. Like, you have the power to change. You just have to want to change, and you have to say the 10 steps over and over again. Sometimes there's those people that are just like, I can't live my life by this. Like, this is not helping me at all. This is just fucking wasting my time being here. I don't believe in any of this shit. That's 100% true. There are people like that. There are people that can stop on their own. There are people who actually want to stop. If you really want to stop, you just look at it like, I don't want to do this anymore because it's not helping me. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want something controlling me. Like, the fact that, people like my grandma, she smokes cigarettes every single day. I don't even know for how long, for like 40 something years. Then they went up in price, and she was like, fuck that. I'm not giving them my money. I'm not going to let somebody control me, and took it that way and never smoked a pack since. You have to look at
it's just different for people, like for everyone.
For sure. And there's definitely people that are like, it's not just that easy. It's not that easy. No, it's not easy at all. It's not. You have to change your perspective on things. Because if you just get comfortable, like how everybody in the world feels, like we just get in a fucking routine and that's it. There's no way to change it. We're just in a fucking routine. We just get comfortable in it. I'd rather just, go to work, go home, go sleep. Go to work, go home, go sleep. Go to work, go to home, go sleep. You're not creating any memories. You're just doing the same shit over and over again until someone wheels your 90-year-old ass up to the window where you're looking out at like, fuck, I didn't do shit. What, I work and that was it?
That's exactly what I do. You just told me who I am, but I only do it, and this is lazy, and I absolutely accept that because it's easier.
It's easy. It's fucking easy. Well, you know what? Life's not fucking easy. And out of all people, you should fucking know that, man. And I'm not sitting here giving you a speech and parading you like some parent or something. I'm just saying,
Oh, no.
dude, I've been in points. I mean, hell, even I'm going through it now where like my buddies are like, you want to come out and go to the pool or go to the beach or something? I'm like, nah, I'm good. And the only reason why is because I'm fucking home and going outside and putting on pants and doing all this shit. It's just too fucking much. I'm like, I'd rather just be sitting here lying down, not talking to anybody and fucking doing nothing all day. Like, why do I choose to do that? Why do we choose to do that? It's affecting ages younger and younger because the world fucking sucks sometimes, dude. It seems like everything that gets
Robbie,
highlighted
Robbie,
anymore is just
for
fucking
some people,
stupid.
it's not a choice.
Yeah, that's true. I'm definitely not saying that's 100% a choice, but I feel like a lot of what happens in the world today, like, I work with someone very close to me at my work, and he's maybe 5 years older than me. He looks like the guy from Superbad, McLovin, and
Okay.
so it's pretty. We got a little joke going on. He's into conspiracy theories and stuff, but he literally looks like McLovin. And I work at a hotel, so whenever I find like a McMuffin or some type of trash or something that like people left in a room, I come downstairs and I got this montage of videos where I'm like, I got a sausage McMuffin for McLovin. But he's literally told me like the only times he's ever like really really like in a better mood is when he's at work because he gets to see me. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He goes, you don't understand what it's
Oh,
like to be afraid to go out into the world and being afraid to even try medication or do anything of this sort. He literally wants to stop drinking. I've witnessed him falling at bars and stuff and like breaking his glasses, coming in the next day with a black eye, losing a shoe. I gave him a new pair of shoes today. Now that's not me pitying him. That's me understanding that people go through shit and sometimes there are people out there that need fucking help, you know whether they're going to admit it. And that doesn't mean I'm saying no, everybody needs to go to AA or these types of meetings or rely on drugs. Fuck no. Sometimes we just need someone to talk to. Sometimes we just need a fucking person who actually gives a shit about each other. That's why I'm saying I think the world needs to learn to start giving a shit about people instead of looking at people like, oh, I don't like her, she's got blonde hair. Oh, I don't like her, she's drinking a Starbucks Frappuccino with unicorn fart sprinkles mixed in. I'm like, who gives a fuck? Is it bothering you that much? Why is it taking that much joy out of your day? If I'm willing to put my plans on hold to help somebody, whether it's be 10 minutes late to my job because I was holding a door open for somebody, or whether it's doing something that's just only going to make my day worse, I don't care. If it brings a smile on someone's fucking face that, might be experiencing an extreme social anxiety to the point where he feels like the only time he can ever have a conversation, even with his own parents, is by having a sip of alcohol. I'm like, I see where alcohol is bad, okay? I know the dark side of it, but I see the benefit too. It's a social lubricant at times. I believe, like you were saying before, you can do anything in excess. Sometimes you have to do it in the right amount, which is 100% true. And I think the world is so excessively fed bullshit that we're just so we're so used to it. We feel like we can just excess everything. Like, oh, well, my day was shit, so I'm gonna drink 3 bottles of this. It's like, I get it. You're trying to kill something. You're trying to numb the pain because I think if we all just care about each other a little bit more, it's not going to improve our own quality of life. It's going to improve the world's quality of life. People are going to be a little bit fucking happier if you walk into a store and not have to worry about, someone giving some smart remark or looking at you funny. I mean, half the time I go out into public with like a body dysmorphia like I have, I feel like people are judging me half the time when half of them are just looking at the fucking cabbage or cucumber that's staring them right in the face.
yeah.
I
Let me
mean,
just say I love your passion.
I
I do.
I really do appreciate that. And I mean, if I'm wrong on things, tell me I'm wrong. I'm here to learn. I'm here to experience everybody's stories and thoughts. I want to know how did you get down the rabbit hole? How did this happen? I've podcasted with transgender people where at first having them on, I was like, I'm just gonna, knock all their witty things and all their stuff they say and realize that they just are doing bullshit. And then after talking to one, I was like, "Whoa, you experience something I experience when I look in the mirror, seeing something I don't enjoy seeing." You know, I'm not saying I'm transgender. I'm saying with body dysmorphia, you look at an image of
Of
yourself in the
course.
mirror and it's something completely different. I had this girl who's now a guy. His name's Dakota. That's who I know him as, and that's what I told him. I was like, if I misappropriate you or do anything of this sort, you correct me. You tell me if I say something wrong that you don't believe in, and I'm talking to you now, Colin. If I say something you don't believe in or you don't agree with, you fucking tell me because I will be willing to listen to your side. And even if I don't agree to it or do whatever I will try and correct myself better to understand you better because I want to see from your perspective. I want to see it through your eyes, which is something I can't do myself because I have no idea what you experience.
Yeah, and I disagree with quite a bit of what you said. I'm sorry, it's hard not to get emotional here, and especially it's very personal. But
I know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to pull that out
I
of
don't
you.
expect anyone I don't expect anyone to help me. I don't. I want them to. Of course I do. Absolutely. It's no one's job to help me. I'm not paying anyone. They're not making the world better. They're helping somebody, and they have to go out of their way to do it. And I understand why they wouldn't want to, but it's nobody's job to help me.
Yeah.
So when I'm driving down the street crying, listening to music, just swerving around the road because I'm drunk, wanting to kill myself, and I see a pretty girl in the car next to me, do I want her to smile at me? Absolutely. Would that make my day better? Of course it would. And is she going to? Is it her job to? No, it is not. Would it make the world better? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And that's my perspective.
I agree with your perspective 100%. And what I'm saying is, it's not a job for us to be kind to each other. It's just that should just be a thing. I don't think you should. If you don't want to smile at somebody, don't fucking smile at them. But don't. We spend more of our time trying to put people in a hole than trying to dig them out of it. I don't see as for me, I don't see smiling at somebody or doing any of these things as a job. I see it as that's just something I want to do. That's just something I enjoy doing. I'd rather try and help you. If you call, I'm the type of friend that if you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I have done this, I have drove across 3 states. Doesn't matter how much money I drain out of my bank account. You're more important than any money I've ever saved up, no matter how close of friends we are. The whole idea is there's no point from like at least in my perspective. I don't see why if we don't agree with somebody, we're more than 100% willing to try and conform them to their way of thinking. I don't see that at all. I don't believe in arguments. I don't believe that there ever is an argument. I believe that they're just conclusions that reach two separate points. And that's fine. We're all 100% of the people here on earth are not meant to like each other, okay? It's not going to happen. And what I'm trying to highlight the whole aspect of is the world seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse because people are getting too, I guess, damaged or too hurt themselves, where they feel like they either need to take it out on somebody or they need to ignore people 100%. I think that evidence through history has shown that. I definitely think that it doesn't take much, and I wouldn't even consider it a job to help somebody out who needs it. I don't see it as a job. And if you see it as a job, that's 100% okay with you. But
No, and that's why you're such a good person, Robbie, and I really appreciate that about you. And let me just go back and highlight again how genuine you are and what a great person you are. That's really awesome. But I want to correct my phrasing when it came to the word job because I don't mean that. I just mean like people don't want to go out of their way to help other people. Most people don't. And
yeah,
I'm not saying I don't. I'm not saying you don't. Most people don't.
yeah. I mean that's for
And
sure.
should that be fixed? Absolutely. I love it if it could be fixed, but it doesn't start with this one random act of kindness at a time bullshit that I hear spouted by people all the time. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm saying myself, I think that it starts with legislation and it starts with social norms being changed. And that doesn't begin with the people as far as I can see it. It begins with the media,
Yeah.
and then it leads down to politicians, and then it comes to the public. That's what I believe, and that's how it's always been.
And that's actually you should probably look this one up, but at least a good thing for you to look up later. It's called Mean World Syndrome.
Sure.
It's like the whole idea that the media displays so many bad things on television that it keeps people inside the house and less willing to go actually experience the world because they're afraid that the world is just a corrupt, like, violence pit hole. And it's actually the reason why elderly people, if you ever go to a retirement home, they have their TV channels locked on certain channels like Jeopardy and all these things. It's because they're sitting in the house watching TV, or they're sitting in a retirement home watching TV all the time. And usually the only things that are on that older people want to watch is like the news or something of this sort, because it lets them know what's going on around them. And the media plays a lot of bad shit. Like, you know how many you can't flip the channel without hearing something that Trump pissed somebody off, or somebody did something. It's always going to be like that. These problems have always occurred, but with media becoming so much bigger in the world today, that it's consuming people even more and more and more, and it's making them not want to go out and experience the world and think of this world as like a shitty piece of turd that someone put on a sandwich. Which, that's true, it is sometimes, but I don't believe it's all the time. I don't think at all. And I'm not a good person at all, dude. I can tell you right now, I have so many moments where I'm a fucking asshole. But at the same time, I know when I'm being one. I'll admit to it 100%. I'm like, damn, yeah, yeah, I should have thought of that a little bit better. Sometimes you got to look at the perspective of things. And I can be a man and admit I'm a piece of shit, only because I know where I find laziness in my character and personality. Much as you say, I appreciate you giving me the compliment and everything, and I'm not trying to shit on it or anything. I'm just saying the whole reason thing is I don't consider myself a good person, because I feel like what I have accomplished in my life yet hasn't fully hit its peak, and I don't know what I want to accomplish. I just want people to understand that they mean something to this world, whether you think it or not. Well, that's the one thing I think out of anything. If we disagree and you don't believe that you're meant for anything, I disagree 100%. But that's just because
Can I just unpack something really quick that you just said?
100% go.
You said that you don't think you're a good person because you haven't accomplished anything. That's terrible, man.
Well, I mean that
That has
just
nothing
comes
to do with
to
your character.
my big picture for everything is I really want people to realize how fucking awesome and special we all are. We all got some talent. Someone can fucking learn. I still don't even know how to cook a fucking hot pocket, right? But my buddy can cook a hot pocket better than anybody I've ever seen cook a hot pocket, where you bite into it and it's not cold on the inside. It doesn't feel like a glacier. In my mind, that makes him a fucking god. But that's what I'm saying. Something as little as that, where people are like, that's fucking nothing. It's something. It's awesome. Like, what do you mean? Don't belittle it. Fucking enjoy it. Run with it. Don't you? I mean, I don't see a whole bunch of jobs that are gonna be looking for that unless you want to be a personal servant. But I'm trying to bring a joke into something that is kind of serious, and that is, people think they're useless. Some people, like, very few people think that they're meant to do something in this world, and are not meant to do something in this world, but think that they're the best person in the world. And anybody that thinks they're a fucking awesome person in this world, it's true. You are an awesome person. But if you sit there and say, "Oh, I'm already a good person. I don't need to help other people," fuck you. Don't say that shit. That's not true. Because I can tell you 100% that people that donate to charity every single fucking day, people that do whatever they do and are seen as the best characters in society today, they're not the best characters in society today. Actually, the best character in society that I've ever met was someone that used to do bath salts and fucking used to, like, just freak out and just dope up herself all the time. But she was a professional women's champion arm wrestler. She's the nicest person I know. She gives a shit about actual people and not just tries to display this image. Like, you know how many people give compliments in front of other people just so other people see them giving compliments? What kind of fucking shit is that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that movement that's going on right now.
It's ridiculous that the fact, like, oh, I'll give you this. Hold on, wait for this person to walk by. All right, see, I'm giving him something. Yeah. All right. Well, what the fuck? Like, why don't you just do it without anybody asking for a thank you or asking for anything in return? You don't have to, but at the same time, why are you looking for somebody to give you gratitude for doing that? Like, shouldn't we just all give a shit and be like, hey, like I'm gonna help you out whether someone knows it or not? Like I've done so much shit in my life to the point where I've helped so many people out that don't even know I fucking helped them. They just thought it randomly happened to them. And I'm like, you're fucking welcome. You think when you tell me you don't have enough money for the fucking bus, a $5 bus ticket, that when you randomly find $5 across the fucking street, after I heard that, like, you think that's fucking a miracle? Then go ahead, think it's a fucking miracle, man. I'm not gonna tell you I did it or not. I'm not gonna say a freaking word, dude. I want you to realize that, like, you know,
Yeah, but you're saying it now.
yeah. Well, yeah. Fuck, shit. I probably shouldn't.
I'm giving you shit. You're good.
I know, but like, I just want like that whole thing. Like, I realize like, shit. Yeah, okay. There's a million other things I could be doing in my life, but at the same time, like, there's people out there too, and I'm not going to ignore the fact that we're all trying to survive on this world together. And if someone tells me they're afraid, they don't know what they're going to eat later, they're not going to do what later, I'm like, you know what, dude, fucking take this, man. Really? Oh, you're gonna give me this? Yeah, I'm gonna fucking give it to you. I don't care. Like, shit. This is nothing out of my book. You're struggling. I'm not right now. Fuck it. I'm hoping that if I was ever in a struggling position, you'd have the kindness to help me out. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm not expecting anything. I'm not expecting favors. I'm not expecting something to be given back in return. I just want you to know, like, the world's not everybody's fucked up. Not everybody's and people that are in this place that really just hate everybody and do all this, they just got something going on with them, and they're displaying their anger out into the world, which is a wrong way of doing it. If you really have anger issues and you feel like you can get it out by yelling at people in the store, fucking yell at me. I'll take that shit all day, dude. I'll even backsass you too. I'll even, get into an argument with you. I don't care. Whatever you want to say, man. The whole thing is, in my mind, I've been to those points where it feels like nothing's left to live. I feel like I've been at that moment, and I've seen people that have gone through 10 times worse than me and still come out with a smile. So I know that there's nothing in this world that at least I can go through that is going to put me into this point. You can't tell me a person that lost his fucking legs and wants to be a marathon runner is giving up. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but that's anecdotal. That's not representative of everyone.
That's 100% true too, man. Like I said, it varies on the person. Much like how we go back to about talking about medical marijuana or something. It varies on the person. It varies on the age. So many things vary on everything. Nobody is exactly the same.
Upbringing, age, parents, if the father is still in the home is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that go into it, but I don't think it's as simple as saying, excuse me, sorry, I'm going inside for a second to get a little bit more of my medicine here. There's some dogs barking at me. I don't think it's as simple as saying that that you can just do this or do that. And it's that simple, I think that there's a lot of gray area when it comes to being a better person and feeling like a better person and living a better life.
Yeah, but what I agree with you 100% on that, because I just feel like we're too afraid to expose that gray area, to look into that gray area a little bit more. Like, why would we consider it a gray area? You know what I mean? Why are we not?
Yeah, but the gray area there is a lot of people, and like yourself, just use anecdotes saying, well, this has happened for other people, so it must be easy for you. Why can't you do it? They did it, and they're way worse off than you. It's not indicative of people's feelings in my search, or not. I don't want to use me as an example, but people in mental health situations that don't think they can get out of it, and that's what depression and things like I have, and things like a lot of people have anxiety deal with, is not wanting to fix yourself. That's not it's not a choice. It's not that you don't want to, in the sense that you like, oh fuck, I'm not going to do that, but like, I just can't. I can't.
Yeah, I get it. And I think what you took out of that was what I was saying about people seeing it as, well, it worked for me, it should work for you. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that 100%. I think that everyone's different, man. I agree with you when you come to say that, because I think what I was trying to say was, people think that just because it works for them, it's going to work for somebody else. That's not true. Like I was telling you before, My dad did not do the AA meetings because he did one or two of them and realized it's not fucking helping him. So he decided to go out and handle it on his own, which is, I think, what you need to do. If you realize something is not helping you, why are you going to keep on doing it? And that's just not the whole that's not the highlight a type of thing to suppress whatever. I'm saying if you're trying to get better at something and you realize this is what everybody does, so I'm going to do it. Okay, but does that work for you, or are you just going to keep doing it because you think that's the normal thing that's going to help you?
No, but you don't have a choice. What I'm trying to say is that, like, especially with me when it comes to alcohol, I can use my own very personal experience for you. Is I don't have a choice. I'm not built like other people. I can't go through at this point with all my. And we can get into this on another episode because it would go too long if I ended up telling you the whole story. But I have a lot of personal shit that I had to deal with in the last 2 years, and now I can't stop. I literally cannot stop. I throw up if I stop. There's no possible way for me to stop. My mind won't let me stop. I have to drive around the liquor stores, and I still find my way there. It's like I'm on autopilot.
Yeah,
So not everyone has a choice.
you have a psychological dependence, and I want you to know that it doesn't have to just stop in an hour, man. We can just talk until as long as you want to talk, dude. That's the whole point of my podcast. I say it typically runs an hour because I don't want people thinking it's going to be 20 minutes or not. But I've had podcasts that gone on for 3 hours. I've had podcasts that go on for two. I think I've only had one or two that end at like a 40-minute mark, and that's because they were trying to rush it in before work. But the whole reason I set out my podcast is to get everything. I want to get everything down to the last detail to the point where we're like everything's been covered. I feel like we've had a great talk.
Okay.
Everything's been amazing.
I'm not sure of your schedule. I didn't want to restrict you.
No, you're good, dude. I'm an insomniac, dude. I'm good all night.
Oh yeah, you're what time is it there? Like 11:30 or some shit?
Yeah, it's kind of late.
Oh, damn, man. Almost 11.
Well,
You're killing it, bro. It's about 8 here. I got a couple hours of work to do, but I got some time to talk. But the personal stuff is just so hard to get into, especially having such a caricature that I play with my audience. It's like, obviously, they've seen behind the curtain way more than I ever expect them to at this point. But, I mean, no one wants to hear about my personal issues, you know? Like, but all I can say is that I have gone through a lot of stuff recently. I'll give you the short story here. So my most recent podcast on the Intellect show, we haven't done a show in almost a year and a half, but my most because we've been stocking them up. But my most recent one, which I refuse to release at this point, which is the one recorded after we stopped doing them, was with this man named Joe, who was one of my best friends at the time. He was staying at my house almost every night because him and his girlfriend, who was my wife's best friend, had just broken up. So he was staying there with us, and turns out he was fucking my wife. And so I never released that podcast. Come to find out later on that she wants to, do all sorts of things in court. I can't see my kids for a long time now. So yeah, it all builds up, and obviously that's absolutely not any sort of excuse to be doing what I'm doing now. But at this point, I just can't stop. And maybe it's my personality, maybe it's my body makeup, maybe it's my physiology. I'm not sure, but at this point, it's just, I don't want to say it's normal because it is, and that's the wrong word to use. But I think that given my certain situation, and I like to play "Oh poor me" all the time, which is pretty easy for me in the situation, but I don't want to say I feel justified in my actions, but I definitely feel like that I don't have any other options right now.
That's actually what most people dive into with alcohol is with they feel like there's no other outlet, that the world's just this kind of meaningless nothing. And anybody that the way you got to look at it, if you want to stop alcohol and you say you can't, I understand that. It's you built up a dependence on this point. Your body, that's the only thing you can't quit cold turkey. You can quit heroin cold turkey and not experience any major, like you won't experience death, okay? Alcohol is literally the only drug you can, if you cut cold turkey, you will die. You will die from the side effects and all that stuff, all the withdrawals and all that. You will die from that. Now listen,
I don't want to say anything for certain. I don't want to make an absolute here because I don't know for sure about the medical statistics when it comes to heroin withdrawal. So let's not anyone take that to the bank. But I know for sure that alcohol withdrawals are definitely the worst.
Yeah. Well, okay. when it comes to like, I don't mean if I get too touchy, obviously, stop me. But when it comes to with
You're
your
good. I think we've gone as far as we can go at this point, so let's keep going.
when it comes to with your kids and with you're dealing with that and court issues and her, is she trying to take custody of your kids to the point you can't see them anymore?
Well, she already has. That was a long time ago.
Okay, now
Yeah, she lied in court to get a restraining order against me, and now I can't see them for the next 3.5 years.
now were you dealing with drinking when this was going on?
Oh yeah, well I mean, because the court with the custody happened months after the divorce and the cheating and all that stuff happened, so I was definitely deep in it at that point. Yeah.
So I'm, I guess, 100% sure she probably used the drinking as something in court against you.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, and why wouldn't she? I mean, I understand her perspective, and I apologize for speaking a little bit quickly there, but I think that I did make mistakes, and I wasn't, I just went to work and came home and drank, and then went to work again,
Yeah.
and I probably wasn't the best, but I tried to do what I could do in the best with the, to the best of my ability, and it just wasn't enough, and she found someone else, and that's what ultimately led to my demise, if you were.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at it, I'm just saying as a way of maybe helping you if you decide you want to not drink anymore, like because you say that you don't want to do it anymore, but you feel like you have to. Have you ever thought about slowly weaning
No,
yourself
sorry,
off?
I've got a friend over, and he's jumping up on the railing about that now. I'm not sure what that was.
No worries, dude. I was just trying to say, if you think about like like we were saying about with her using that against you, obviously in court, doing that stuff. Trust me, I've been there with that too. Not me personally, but with my parents. But what the whole thing is, what if you're trying to wean yourself off and you say you don't want to be drinking anymore because you feel like but you have to at this point, which I understand 100%. Trust me, I've heard that from my dad before too. And when and that's not me saying, oh, I've heard that before. No, that's me saying I understand what you're going through with that. And when it comes to alcohol, if you feel like you need something to push yourself to get you to stop, have you ever thought about using that as like, I'm not going to let that girl use that against me. I'm not going to let her use that as fuel to keep my kids away from me. Because let me tell you something.
And
Any judge that sits down and talks to you like how I have talked to you for the past hour and basically 10 minutes is that I can tell you're not a piece of shit, okay? Whether you think in your own head you're not, in my mind you're not, okay? You're 100% overall good person. Let me tell you, you pass through the pearly white gates, whether they're out there or not. Now listen, any judge that sits the time and actually, I think this is with everybody, not just judges, not just whoever. It's if we take the time to actually get to know the person, but we make judgments on different scenarios and different cases. Yes, a judge should get obviously both sides of the argument, but at the same time, get the both perspectives and the time with each individual person to understand. And I know that's very hard to do with everything going on. Like you can't just do that every single case. It would just be a ridiculous amount of time. Nothing would ever really get solved in the amount of time it needs to get solved. But at the same time, you get a better perspective on who a person is. And that's what I think podcasting is. I think understanding that if you feel like you need to quit alcohol, but you're so reliant on it, think of it as I'm not going to let her use that against me to keep my kids away from me. You're a good person. Somebody that is willing to say that when they were a kid, they dreamed of being a father, that's a lot. That's something I've never fucking heard of before. And I thank you for sharing that with me because I mean, I've heard everybody wanting to be from, like you were saying, not you didn't want to be an astronaut, but I've heard people say they want to be astronauts and all these types of things, to then not become that. But the fact that you can be an amazing dad, and let me tell you something, from the amazing person I've talked to already, you already are an amazing dad. You just have to get them to see that. You have to get not I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about them to see that. You have to realize like, hey, whether it's now or 20 years from now, I'm going to fucking be there for you. Okay? I have shit going on in my life, but don't see that as me dealing with something. See that as me being stuck in something I can't get out of, and you might be the gateway or the key that gets me out of it. That keeps that drink down. And that might be it, dude. That might be it for you. I have no clue. Like I said, I don't know what's going to work for you. I'm just making I guess and I don't even know, I get a suggestion. But I'm just saying, you can take anything I say and throw it out the window. But I'm letting you know that if you're going to take at least one thing, understand that you're an amazing person that is obviously going through a lot and still going through a lot and can probably keep going through a lot. But if you want to really feel like you can look at something differently, try looking at drinking as something that's fuel for her fire. Don't look at it as something that's is got a crippling hold on you. See it as something
Yeah.
that you're doing that is giving her the ability to keep your kids away from you. And like I said, I don't want to get.
Can I just say something?
Go ahead.
She's not using alcohol to keep my kids away from me. That has been mentioned in court, but at this point it's he said, she said. And let me say again, I very much appreciate your kind words. You're a very nice man, and I very much appreciate the empathy that I'm feeling on your end, and that's awesome. But it's not, it's been mentioned, but at this point it's he said, she said. It's the fact that I'm a male in California. I have no rights as a father. I have nothing. So she can say whatever she wants, and they take that as fact. And I can say whatever I want, but I have to provide proof.
Oh shit. Well, that's not just in California too. That's in a lot of places. It seems like if anybody's going to get the kids out of an argument, it doesn't really matter. It's usually the mom that gets the kids because it's seen as mom as a care provider and the dad is like more of the workforce.
Yeah, but if I'm who's providing the care if I'm the one giving all the money?
Dude,
You know?
I can tell you, I can name 100 examples of people that are amazing dads that don't get to see their kids, and they work. I mean, they would be way better of a father than the mom is. Let me tell you something. But I've also seen the other side of it too, where moms are seen as the mom and the dad. But I'm letting you know, I've seen some caring fathers out there that that would do anything for their kids. I mean, be there any moment. And I've seen the mom not give two shits of the kid. Trust me, I have witnessed that. But the fact is, what's common in society is the mom usually gets it because it's seen as the mom being the overall. We have this image in our mind that it's Miss it's oh, that's that's Susie's mom. She's so wonderful. She bakes cookies, all this type of shit. That's not every mom out there. Let me tell you something. And it seems like the dad, like, oh, he just goes to work, comes home, sleeps, goes to work, goes home, sleeps. It's like that's not every single dad though. That's not every father out there. I've witnessed my dad taking me, I mean, I've experienced my dad taking me on camping trips and giving more of a shit about me than anything I've ever seen in my entire life. Whether he was so tired from work or not, he wanted nothing more than to just be able to sit down in the 2 hours he was home after working two jobs and experience a little bit of his day with me. Whether it was me learning how to play drums and him taking a nap and him saying, play that shit as loud as you want, man. It just helps me soothe myself to sleep. Whether it did or not, I have no clue, considering he was going to go out and play drums for another 6 hours once he woke up from a 2 hour nap. It doesn't matter. He let me know that he was there for me. And I think a lot of courts dismiss that and they don't look at dads like that. Especially most courts, at least where I'm from, most of the care is usually given into the custody is given into the mom. It's not given into the dad, no matter how much of the relationship between the mom and the dad is. If the dad's an amazing father, it doesn't matter. It usually just goes to the mom, which I think is fucked up because it's all depends on the person. Like I said, if we take more time to understand one another, we're going to realize who deserves the care, who deserves, what. I
Let me ask you, how old were you when you realized your father did all those kind things for you and what he sacrificed for you?
Sadly, not until I was at an older age, man. Like I was telling you, your kids might be 20 years from now looking at back at it, dude. Sometimes they don't realize until you're long and gone. But I mean,
Yeah.
I witnessed my not just my dad, but both my parents kind of deal with hell in different ways and deal with different things in different ways. It seems like one person was dealing to working with doing, going out and only sleeping 2 hours and working so much that he was just literally physically tired all the time to the point where he felt like he had to drink just to kind of keep his mind at toll. And then I witnessed that side of that with him and my mom dealing with that and like all you do is drink and all that. Well, not to get sensitive on that subject, but and I've seen it from both perspectives. And when you're sitting and just watching and being silent and just watching it all happen and watching not just with your own family, but with other people's families and just starting to be able to kind of experience the world a little bit more and understanding people's childhoods and stuff, I started realizing things from a whole different perspective that we always look at one side. We always stick with either the norm or we just know what we know. Like, oh, that's just always how it's been and that's just how it goes. Oh, yeah, it's not true 100% of the time. That's it might be for some people, but it's not for everyone. I just started to realize I can't make an assumption on somebody without experiencing them first. You say that, he Bill Cosby did all these terrible things as much as we want to make light of, but I've never talked to Bill Cosby, never experienced his side. I've never experienced anything like that. Whether he was in the right or wrong, it doesn't matter because I can't make justifications based on opinions of somebody else. I have to make my own experience. And that's what I set out to do with my podcast. I said, I'm gonna fucking find out what everyone's interested in. I've handed out business cards just walking around the street tossing them to random people. People are like, why the hell do you want to talk about me? Because you're fucking interesting. I've walked and heard a Jehovah's Witness say something to a person saying, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in Christ. To the point where I walked up to him, I was like, what happened? What made you get like this? You know, what is it? Is it something you just have to do? What is it? And I've talked to him, and then him coming to realization it's not right of him to do that. And that wasn't the point of talking to him. The whole point of talking to him is I want to better understand. I just want to know. I want to understand people. And I think if we took a little bit more time to understand one another rather than helping them out or rather than hurting them, if we just took the time to just understand. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take anything at all, really. And it's not your job to do so. It's not your job to do anything like that, but it's fucking worth it. It's honestly worth it in the long run. And that information is not going to go anywhere once you die. It might be a waste of your time depending on how you look at it. But I see everybody as a history book. You're sitting here on my podcast. I'm learning the history of Colin. I mean I can read well. I don't like fucking reading, but you know, you're telling me a history book. I'm good at talking. At least I think I am. And the whole thing is, I just want to know what your life was like, what life is like. What are your thoughts in the world? What do you want to do in this life? What do you want to do to change the world if you want to change it at all? Do you feel like you've accomplished everything? That's all the questions I ever ask. And everyone's like, why don't we ever talk about you? Because you're helping me out. You're doing this for me. You're not, you're taking time out of your day to talk to me. And it sucks that I have to say that. It sucks I have to say, can you sit down or can you spare an hour? Now, why don't people just sit and talk anymore? I mean, it gets to the point where I usually do my podcast face to face and they end up arms back behind the couch, like just chilling, like they're right at home, like getting ready, like, hey, can I take a shit in your toilet? I'm like, fuck no, don't get that comfortable. But like the same time, it's like I just want you to realize like there are people out in this world, not everyone obviously, but there are people that just want to understand. And I think if that became more of the popular thing, we wouldn't have so much problems in the world today. We'd be at a we'd be at a better point. I think with all how technology has kind of shaped the world and done so much, I think it's also we're not looking at the right things to be increasing in this world. We should be looking at people. Why don't we change people? And I know Obama, whatever, some whatever. I'm not saying he was right with change, but I think if you're going to do anything or work on anything, not the next iPhone 30, but people. Like why don't we figure out what's going on here? Why is it that I can podcast with people, students from Romania come to my hotel to work for the summer and they don't feel comfortable being here to the point when they go home they're like, what the fuck? Like nobody talks to them in their language. They have to learn English. They're coming to a whole new country, braving a whole new world. I take the time to type anything that's in English that someone's trying to get to them through Google Translate into their language and then try and pronunciate it. And they're like, why do you do this? I'm like, because I want to understand. You have the balls to come over into this country. I'm going to fucking try and meet you more than, you're already meeting me 95% of the way. I can at least stick in that 5%. What's your name? Oh, they call me Chris. No. What's the name that your mom and dad gave you in the country you are from? Oh, it's Hristo. Okay, I'm gonna start calling you fucking Hristo. Everyone at my hotel calls him fucking Chris or calls him a nickname like Spike. I had to go in the back and let people know he doesn't like to be called Spike. He says it's a dog's name. And he's like, why would you do this for me? I'm like, why would I? Why is that a question? Why are you asking me why I would do this for you? But the problem is, that's what you have to ask when someone does something like that because it's so seen as above and beyond, out of the norm, out of somebody's day. And I know that's how you just took that. Am I guessing that right?
I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack there, but yeah, I can go with that, sure.
And it's like, it shouldn't be it's not even a fucking a minute out of my day to call you by your correct name. Like, shit, if I'm getting something incorrect, you tell me so I don't look like a jackass. But at the same time, like, it doesn't take much so people stop calling you a dog's name to just learn your real name and call you by your real name. That's all it is. And he's like, I really appreciate that. And he looked at me like was about to give me a hug. I was like, dude, it's all good, man. Like, you don't need to hug me for it. You don't even need to thank me for it. It's fucking common courtesy. Fucking walk away. That's it. I think somewhere along the line we lost it. We lost our common courtesy to people. Whether you want to do it because you have to, or whether you want to do it because you want to. You know, the whole thing is.
Yeah, but to say lost is to imply that we ever had it. I don't know if we ever did. I don't think America's always been I mean, not to throw capitalism under the bus, but that's just my example to say it's a dog eat dog kind of, cliche saying kind of world,
Yeah, we're built upon a shitty foundation, I think. I agree with you 100% on that, man. I don't think we ever had it to begin with, to be honest with you. I think there's a select few that have thought the way I kind of think a little bit about things. And I think we can all come to an understanding of something like this, whether you want to do it 100% of the time or not. I'm not 100% kind all the time. I do have my moments where I'm like, haven't slept in 8 days, trying to get some food, haven't eaten in a while, and someone's taking excessively long in the store. But I just do a kind of a stop, self analyze type thing where I'm like, why am I going to try and rush this person when they're just trying to get through their day or enjoy their day? I can fucking, cuss her out in my head as much as I want, but I won't do it in public. But I feel like somewhere along the line we lost that. Somewhere along the line we or maybe even at the start just thought like, I'm going to express myself and be a dick to somebody instead of keeping it in my own head. And I with that, if that's how you want to display yourself, I just know that's not how I'm going to be. That's not, I think if more people thought like what other people really mean to this world, like much how you mean, Colin, it's whether you want to think you mean anything to this world or not, you do. You've made a mark here so far. Hell, dude, your podcast, that's in history. That's there. That's not going away anymore. It's on the fucking internet. Internet's forever. As long as humankind and the world's around, we're always going to be seeing those wonderful pictures of Halle Berry on the internet. It's all about living a life, and whether you want to live a life of shit or whether you want to live a life worth living it's entirely up to you. I can give you the directions to where you should take your life, but you have the keys to your own car. You got to drive it, dude. Whether you want to drive it down to that store, pick up another bottle or not, that's entirely up to you, and I have no way of stopping you. But at the same time, what do you feel like the steps you should start taking, or what do you feel like you should accomplish? It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, man. It only matters about you. What's going to make you happy is what you have to do. Every step you take should be in forward of what you want to do. And like I said, I don't mean to just give you a pep talk here. I think along the way, people don't say it enough to other people and kind of give them this realization of how important they really are, whether they think they are or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, if there's anything that I can ask anyone to take away from this podcast and from hearing our conversation today, it would be that just kind of in conclusion here, because I am running a little bit out of time here, and I don't mean to.
That's fine, dude.
Cut you off as far as your time here, but I think that we all deal with a lot of stuff, right? Everyone deals with everything, right? No one's life is easy, and I want you, the listeners, to know, and you personally, Robbie, to know that you know, and as counterintuitive or hypocritical as this may seem on my part, I think that the best thing you can do is in the morning, make your bed in the morning. You know, that's like Jordan Peterson said. The best thing you can do is make your bed in the morning. So making your bed, in my sense right now, is reaching out to someone, because I think that we've talked a lot about, you know, it's delved into, you know, it was marijuana and then personal life and then alcoholism and stuff. And so I want everyone to know that there is help out there for you, but you have to reach out for it. No one is going to come at you. No one is going to come help you. You have to help yourself, and you can't expect the person on the street to open the door for you, or to pay for your coffee if they've done it for everyone else, or to smile at you if you're feeling sad. You have to go out and do it on your own, and especially if you're dealing with alcoholism. I think that is a huge issue. And if you want to personally reach out to me on Facebook, I'd be more than willing to talk to you about it, because just like you, I need help too with this on a personal and daily basis. And I think that, you know, maybe try AA, see how it works for you. You know, if you need an alternative, marijuana, CBD, that sort of thing is a great alternative, or just talk to your doctor. And I think the first thing you can do is to reach out to someone and tell them how you're feeling and see what they think, and get a third-party perspective, because we're always so stuck in our heads all the time, and we're always so, you know, for lack of a better term, we're all very selfish about how we feel about about ourselves. We think that everything's about us, and that's true for the most part. You should be pretty selfish, especially in a program like AA, but you really do need to find a third-party perspective on how you're feeling, because at the end of the day, it isn't absolute. You're never right when it comes to everything. There's always more to learn. So if that's anything that I can leave to you, I think that's the best thing that I can say. And I don't prescribe to that personally. I have my many faults, and I don't cross that path ever often at all. But I think that it is the most logical one. And if you're listening and you're struggling, I think that is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah,
and thank you very much, Robbie, for having me on your show, man. It's been awesome. You're such a fucking great dude. Like, you're fucking super kind and knowledgeable and very articulate. And I appreciate you having me on your show today.
I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. And just like you were saying about what people should be taking away, you never stop building, man. You're a constant work in progress. Like, one of my favorite people in history, Leonardo da Vinci, who I wish I could meet out of anybody in the world, that would be who it is. He always said that art is never finished, just left undone. And that's true, because we're never finished. There's always something you can add. There's always something you can fix. There's always something you can do. You're constantly building yourself up, and you're constantly making adjustments. The key is, make your adjustments in the way you feel like your life should be heading towards. And anybody that's taking away, my listeners or his listeners, understand that we're all in this world together, and we're constantly works in progress. So never think you're finished. And Colin, I want to thank you again, dude, for everything, for even just taking this amount of time out of your day, dude. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me, man. And I want you to know that I hope you do well. I hope your podcast does well. And if you ever want to do a podcast again, you let me know, all right?
Absolutely, man. I've really enjoyed the time we've had today. Like I said before, such a sweet dude. Everyone, if you're fucking not subscribed to this guy's podcast, what are you doing? This shit is killing it right now. So how about everyone just go leave a review, a positive one, I hope. And if it's negative, let it be about me, because I like that kind of shit. So everyone hit me up on all social media platforms. Colin Goddard, DJCSG on Instagram, Intellect on everything that you know that has podcasts.
It's the only thing. If you're not subscribed to his channel, then you are missing out, because it's some funny shit. Let me tell you something.
Thank you very much, brother. And it's been very deep, but ending it on a light note, you're a fucking awesome guy, and I hope to come up on the podcast again, and hopefully we'll be in contact.
Right on, Colin. All right, man. Catch you later.
Have a good day, brother.